Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Jay, and this is my video response for um, the effects of news media as well as social media. So, first, let me preface this with saying that typically for me, I don't really watch the news that often or read into it. For me personally, I typically only watch the news or read the news enough to stay aware of what's happening on current events, just enough, but not really enough to really go into details on necessarily all the pros and cons of a specific news media site. Typically, whenever I could get to inkling to find out about something, I simply just go to Google and I just click on the news tab, and wherever pops up first, I just kind of look at the articles, or if there's something specific that I'm looking for that I know that's happened in like a current events. That's typically what I use in order to find out about what's going on. Now, with that being said, the three main news sources that I typically run into, or at the very least know the most about, but don't necessarily watch, are the Washington Post, CNN, and Fox News. So, starting with CNN, um, from my experience, one of the main things they just tend to report on is pretty much everything that's kind of going on in the world. Typically, they tend to focus on what's happening that's negative from my experience. So, whenever there's something important going on, or if ever I hear about like something that's going on in the world, I'll, typically find something on their site, or, you know, generally just things like that. Another one, as I stated before, is Fox News. They tend to kind of cater towards a more conservative bias, typically those who are more right-leaning. So I guess that would be a weakness, but to me it's kind of part of a strength, since that is their target audience and that is what they tend to lean towards. Hold on one second. And the next one is the Washington Post. Now, pretty much their audience are typically those within the business industry, so they typically report on things like that. I don't really know any apparent weaknesses. In this kind of social media world, I don't think they appeal necessarily to a younger audience, so I guess that could be considered one of the weaknesses, but typically their focus is on those who kind of work in the business industry, or um, their reporting is, I think, kind of slanted towards that. So if I had to speak about the influence that each of these media sites has on society, I would say that they definitely influence the perceptions, ideas, and views of those who typically watch them. So if somebody has a certain bias towards something, either they'll confirm it or they'll go against it. That's pretty much all I can really say. Like I said, I don't necessarily consume the information on these sites enough to necessarily say which side they lean towards or the other, or what type of influence they have, but I definitely know that for those of them who are, those viewers who are more avid in watching their content or reading it, that they do have a definitely powerful impact. Lastly, why do I look at these contents as compared to others? Like I said before, it's really just kind of random to me. Like whenever I go on the news tab, whatever typically comes up first, or I just go to a wide variety. So there's no particular reason why I choose one or the other. Although I would typically go towards the Washington Post. I believe that they have more of a balanced perspective than are the other two. So they kind of tend to be centered when it comes both politically and in terms of their views overall. So that's that. Okay, so now on to my views on social media. So for me personally, the two social medias I use the most are Twitter and Instagram. I do have a Facebook that I created recently, but I really don't use it that often, except to see what other influencers are up to, such as Eric Thomas, Brendan Bouchard, and other people who tend to work in the personal development industry. And pretty much it's the same thing with my Instagram and Twitter. I typically only use those to follow people who are within the realm of personal development, self-growth, self-education. For me, that's the whole point of social media, at least for my use, is to really learn more at a very fast rate, or at the very least, bring positivity into my life into my perspective instead of, just constantly searching news feeds or other kind of things I would view as trivial online. And for me, what makes Twitter and Instagram specifically special, more special than any other type of social media platform, is with Twitter, you get the kind of chance to see some news that's going on in the world. You also get to see what other influencers are posting, whether it be positive or something informative. With Instagram, that's more of like an active news feed, so you get to interact a lot more with your influencers or those you follow. It's just a great way to maybe network in some type of way, or get in touch with the community in some type of way. So as for my opinion about the effect that these social media platforms are having on the world, one of the main things I believe that it has had is given us a lot more opportunity. For example, let's say if you ever worked in the entertainment industry as either a singer, rapper, dancer, whatever your field is, it used to be that in order to make it big, that you had to find somebody else who could put you on. Now with the use of these media avenues, you're now able to go straight to the consumer base and basically let the market decide whether or not your content is good or bad. In addition to that, it's also exposed a lot about us. Like, a lot of people say that social media, has contributed to people like flexing more and, just looking for other people's validation. Although I don't agree with that necessarily, because honestly, many of the effects that we're seeing now, they were around before. Like, whether or not you were looking for validation from people on social media, you would do it with people in the office or at school. So it wouldn't matter either way. And not only that, it's revealing a lot more in terms of what people are actually doing, rather than what they say they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, an influencer, Gary Vaynerchuk, you see what he does on a daily basis if you follow his vlogs, if you follow his social media, that he is genuine about the work that he puts in and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. So definitely it's exposing a lot more, and it's giving us a lot more opportunities that we did in the past, both from an entertainment perspective, but also from an ability to sell, ability to market products, and just ability to just generate revenue in general. Okay, and lastly, my view on social media as a whole is it's a tool like any other. It can be used for good or it can be used for bad. You can use it in order to have a benefit to your life, whether that means absorbing things that are positive or just viewing things that are negative. You can use it as an opportunity to market yourself, or advocate for things that you believe in. You can use it all day just to surf the internet and look at other people's posts, wasting hours at a time doing that. Or you can use it to actually learn more and develop yourself. Like any other tool, how you use it will determine what its value to you. As for myself, I'm still learning what it is to use social media. Like, I still am figuring out how to use Instagram, how to view stories. Same thing with Twitter. Mostly I'm using it to follow influencers that, like I said before, work in the area of personal development and self-growth. Because for me, my personal field of interest is to become a global keynote speaker. So for me, it's just about learning as much as I can about the industry and the people within it, and basically just finding ways to improve myself and add value to those around me. So with that being said, those are my views on social media. I hope you guys have a blessed evening. Good night.